doesn't stall, they go for the takedown. As Nebraska's full-service concrete contractor, they stay in bounds, hold inside position, and never forfeit quality. Whether it's foundations, flatwork, or concrete coatings, they elevate performance and pin down results that win every time. Stevenson Smith Construction is a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket. Because when it's time to wrestle with concrete, Stevenson Smith Construction slams expectations. A new year means it's time to try new things. If you haven't tried Führer's cheese spread yet, the time is now. For the days you don't want to go to the gym, don't worry. Führer's cheese spread is there to cheer you up. And for the days you do get to the gym, why not celebrate when you get back with the best dip around? Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Führer's cheese spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table. MWR, a local company of Lincoln, is proud to announce they are able to offer their own post-frame building packages in metal to anyone desiring a building, whether you're a contractor or a DIYer. They can install your building as always, and they offer multiple different rib profiles and loads of color options, including the wood grain metal at great competitive prices. You can inquire at mwrbuildingandfence.com or just draw your desired building and submit it in their contact us page and they'll get back to you. Call MWR today at 402-540-8966. Gentlemen, are you ready for something beyond the ordinary haircut? At Scissors and Scotch Lincoln, they blend your old school barber feel with your favorite watering hole. Sink into a comfy chair, unwind with a complimentary drink, and let their master barbers handle the rest. It's not just grooming, it's an experience. Whether you're prepping for a big meeting, needing to get cleaned up before family comes to town, or just need a little time to yourself, Scissors and Scotch Lincoln delivers sharp style every time. Book now at Scissors and Scotch in Lincoln, just south of 30th and Yankee Hill Road.
Fans, are you craving the ultimate game day experience? Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill has your front row seat to all the action. Dive into delicious wings, juicy burgers, and ice-cold drinks, all served up with TVs covering every inch of the wall, so you'll never miss a play. Rally your crew, cheer on your team, and take advantage of game night specials every week. Stop in for a Nebraska basketball game with a party of 4 or more and receive a free pitcher of beer. Red Zone Sports Bar and Grill, right by the Lincoln Airport at 3111 Northwest 12th Street.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. 93.7 The Ticket sports news go now.
This is Rudy Gress IV with your Ticket Sports Update. In Husker softball, Nebraska split action yesterday at the Shriner Children's Clearwater Invitational in Clearwater, Florida. The Huskers opened the day with an impressive 6-0 shutout victory over number 10th ranked LSU, using dominant pitching and timely hitting to control the game from start to finish. Later in the afternoon, Nebraska came up just short in a tightly contested 6-5 loss to number 17 Georgia, a game that went down to the final at-bat. The Huskers now turn their attention to another marquee matchup today, facing number 3 Tennessee at 11 a.m. on ESPN2. As they continue tournament play against some of the nation's top competition. Husker baseball begins its season tonight, taking on UConn at 7 p.m. Central on MLB Network. The matchup opens Nebraska's play at the MLB Desert Invitational as the Huskers look to start the season off on the right foot with a strong showing on opening night. In Husker basketball news, the Cornhuskers aim to bounce back as they host the Northwestern Wildcats at Pinnacle Bank Arena tomorrow, February 14th. Tip-off is set for 12 p.m. Central, and the game will be televised on Big Ten Network as conference positioning continues to tighten late in the regular season. For all the latest sports news and updates, keep it tuned right here to 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
It's time to go one-on-one with DP. Coming at you live from the heart of Lincoln, America on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Sponsored by the Downtown Lincoln Foundation. Here is your host, Derek Pearson.
Welcome in. Happy Friday. It is one-on-one. No DP today. He's traveling out of town. And so Nick Sehnert here with you on a Friday. Happy Valentine's Day weekend to everyone out there, as we have plenty of stuff to get to throughout the hour show. We will be here until noon, as well as hope you are too. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, open for you guys the entire show today, as well as the Starter Heyman Jewelers live video stream, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Allo Cable Channel 961. All avenues for you guys to get in touch with us here. We have so much to get to throughout the hour. Husker softball, as you heard in Rudy's sports update there just a moment ago, officially underway for the day. They started on ESPNU here at 11 a.m. Against third-ranked Tennessee, because the first game of the day between Texas A&M and I believe Oklahoma State is a 9-7 barn burner right now in the sixth inning still down there in the Clearwater Invitational. But today is a big day for the sports on the diamond. Nebraska softball, obviously, will keep you updated throughout the hour. Adam Carricker will take over at noon. We haven't been able to talk a ton about the whole Bill Moose book situation. We'll get to that in the second segment or so. But first, we have to bring in our traveler from Phoenix, Arizona. Austin Orman is down there in the beautiful, I'm trying to think what state for Arizona, but nonetheless, Husker baseball starts tonight, 7 p.m. against the Yukon Huskies in the MLB Desert Invitational. And with that, we bring in Austin Orman, who caught a 5 a.m. flight out of Omaha this morning. Austin, how are we feeling?
Feeling great. Not showered or anything, but I've had 2 breakfasts. So you know what? We're making it work. It's been 6 years since I've had to navigate a student union. So that's where I'm posted up right now in the heart of Tempe, Arizona. It's just kind of like, the Alabama ESPN commercial, just say, roll tide, everyone. Just say, forks up. Exactly. And you're good, right? I fit right in. Not like my color red is different or anything, or not like I totally look like a confused tourist or anything. But no, shout out the Uber driver, shout out First Watch Cafe, reverse shout out to the people who didn't give me the time of day at the hotel. Like no chance for early check-in. It was not happening. So we had to get creative. That's okay. I like being around. I like exploring the area. So all these towns are close enough together that they're pretty quick, pretty short Uber rides. Had a couple stupendous drivers here early on. So you know what? Shout out to so far Mesa and Tempe, Arizona. Excited to hit up Scottsdale at some point in the near future as well.
What is the weather like down there right now? I mean, what are these conditions that Nebraska is going to be playing in later tonight?
It is gray. Overcast day, except it's 65. Little bit of a breeze here and there. It might have been spitting before. There's not much rain in the forecast. Some of the locals were saying, it could happen at some point today. But at the very least, this is, your prototypical spring weather down here, I would say. Nothing crazy. It's not blazing hot. It's not cold. I'm in a quarter zip and I'm in jeans. And I'm probably a little overdressed for the weather. But hey, I just came from where it's 35 or 40. So they can cut me a break. And again, forks up.
Just go around saying, I love Kenny Dillingham. I love Kenny Dillingham. I love Kenny Dillingham. And
screw that Sam Levitt guy. Jordan Tyson's pretty cool, though.
Gosh, I hate Sam Levitt. Jeff Sims might be somewhat of a hero down there still. I don't know.
You guys remember James Harden? He was pretty fun.
James, gosh, I hate Bobby Hurley. Which, speaking of, Bobby Hurley's days in Tempe are probably numbered, unfortunately. Okay, so Austin, a lot to get to throughout the next 20-25 minutes or so with you as we break down Nebraska and getting ready for their season. By the way, an update from the softball side of things down there in Clearwater, Florida. After Nebraska split the 2 games yesterday, they shut out LSU, 10th ranked LSU. They fall 6-5 to 17th ranked Georgia. I was looking, and there's a team that's playing down there in Clearwater that is 3-3 on the year. 3 of their wins have been against top 10 teams. All 3 losses have gone against unranked opponents. And so it's a fascinating statistic and stuff. But nonetheless, Nebraska right now in the bottom of the first inning, they just got Jordy Fromm on base with a leadoff walk, something we talked yesterday about. So they have a runner on first base with nobody out so far here in the bottom half of the first inning against number 3 Tennessee this morning. But Nebraska baseball tonight, it's an exciting day. I think there's a lot of fans out there that probably are sitting there going, okay, sure. Like as we get closer, as the season progresses and we get closer to May and when the Big Ten tournament's going on and stuff, okay, that's when I'll really start to kind of not pay attention, but really invest my time and energy and effort into Nebraska baseball. Austin, though, I'll let you have the floor. There's a lot of things to be excited about with Nebraska baseball right now. And there's a lot of new faces that Husker fans, whether you're a casual fan or you're actually a diehard baseball consumer, there's a lot of new faces that we should know about.
There absolutely are. I'm going to start with the returners, though. I think if you want a reason to get invested in Husker baseball, you can do it tonight on the MLB Network, available for a lot of people, and see your kind of prototypical Bulldog ace in Ty Horn take the mound. This is a guy that really got thrown into the deep end, baptism by fire, whatever analogy you want to use. He's a competitor, right? That's the thing that his teammates, his coaches will say about it first. Sure, he's got the fastball in the 90s. Sure, he's got the slider. Sure, he's working on a change in a curve, but it's his competitiveness, right? We talked about it a little bit yesterday, the fact that he was the one on the mound against LSU, that LSU or Vanderbilt, right? He's taken the mound against some really good competition, hasn't backed down from the moment, and got a good UConn program on tap in the season opener here tonight. You have enough returning faces, I think, especially on the infield, that'll go a long way. We know with baseball, Nick, you and I talk about it a lot, just how much local talent there is. You have your Max Butenbachs, guys like that in the lineup, plenty of other names. Drew Grego's a guy that you brought up yesterday. Tucker Timmerman, a fan favorite, obviously will be in the back end of that Nebraska bullpen. But then you look up and down that line, Devin Nunez, not a new name, but in a new position. How does he take to that? How does potentially Will Jeske take to expanded playing time? What about a guy like Jet Buck? Incredible baseball name, incredible football name coming from Texas down there in the JUCO ranks. He's your presumptive starter at second base. With some pop in the bat. There's a lot of reasons that you should be paying attention to this Husker baseball team. I get the Husker basketball has captured the hearts and mind, but there's no reason, to wait to get into Husker basketball until after football's done. There's no reason to wait to get into Husker baseball until the basketball teams are done, because that's when you're going to miss out on these early season tournaments. These are some pretty marquee events that Nebraska continues to get invited to against perennial NCAA tournament contenders and conference championship contenders. If you wait till the midweek and you tune into a Nebraska clunker like we've seen far too often on a Tuesday or Wednesday, you'll be, whatever, another Nebraska baseball season. No, this is the time. Get excited for Nebraska Northwestern tomorrow by tuning into Husker baseball, right? There's no NFL on Sunday. You can go ahead and check out Nebraska. I believe it'll be Grand Canyon on Sunday. So now is the time, these first two weekends, this is when I think fans should really want to get their first taste of Husker baseball, to learn the new faces, but then check back in every so often, because we know the ups and downs of a college baseball season, Nick. Guys that start hot in the first 10 games can ride the pine for the last 40. Guys that can, ride the pine for the first 40 come alive in the last 10. That's kind of the beauty of college baseball. And we've seen that somewhat consistently with Nebraska, that you haven't had that same, 1 through 9 all year. You've had different guys play their way in and out of the lineup. And so it's the same team, but it's a different team every time you tune in and watch them.
As always, 402-464-5685, Honda Lincoln Hotline, the Starter Heyman text line open for you guys. We want you to be a part of the show. This is a spot to also, Austin and I acknowledge that number one, we don't know everything. Number two, though, is that there's a lot of fans out there that are, baseball is a tough sport to follow. Especially college baseball, things aren't publicized a whole lot. Like moves and additions and transfers, they aren't publicized a whole lot. You really got to get in the weeds to really kind of have an idea, or be a part of the team, that is, to be, to really understand how they operate and why they operate, and some of the decisions, personnel wise, lineup decisions, things like that. So with that being said, the reason I say all of that is to say, feel free to send in text, like open conversation, open forum thoughts, because there's a lot of different angles we can take this conversation. One area I want to start with, and Byron, I see your text, and I'll get to it in just a sec, but the area that I want to start first is, you mentioned the marquee tournaments and matchups. Nebraska had a couple of those last year. They took advantage of one against Vanderbilt, where that was our first time seeing Ty Horn on the mound in 2025. That was, and he did a decent job, and Nebraska ended up beating, a higher ranked Vanderbilt team. And you also have the name and the aura that comes with beating a team with the name of Vanderbilt and all that stuff that's associated with the Commodores. And you also had another chance later in the year against LSU. Weren't able to win that game, but nonetheless, last year Nebraska started pretty rough. It was a 3-4 start. You lost to a team like, Louisiana on the road. You had that 3-game set against Louisiana on the road that you lost 2 of 3 against. You lost to Grand Canyon on the road in Phoenix and stuff. And it was okay from these early season tournaments. You didn't really know what to necessarily take away. This year, I would say the schedule in terms of notable opponents with this weekend and next weekend, UConn's a team that consistently makes the regionals, same as Northeastern as well. They're a pesky 3 seed in years past. You have Stanford, who's been to multiple College World Series in their program history that you play on Sunday, I believe.
Monday, that's the getaway game.
Excuse me, Monday. And then next week, it's maybe even more notable opponents in Florida State, Kansas State, Louisville, waiting for you down in Texas. We might learn a decent amount about Nebraska, and they have a chance to really start it off on a high note if they can steal a couple of these.
Yeah, we're obviously talking about Nebraska specifically, but we can really, extrapolate this to any Northern team because I think UConn's in a similar boat in Northeastern as well. I mean, those are all programs with some name recognition in, maybe quote unquote lesser baseball conferences. But again, another reason to tune in. Big Ten has the preseason #1 team in UCLA. Okay, sure, maybe not a true Big Ten team yet, but all of these Northern team, Nick, I have just a fascinating scenario ahead of them every year because they need to go play these games in warmer climates because they're RPI boosters, right? Nebraska's RPI every year is in a pretty good spot, almost regardless of what the record coming out of these first few weekends is, because they're playing quality competition. They're at a disadvantage because they have the travel, because they haven't been able to be outside as much, face as much live pitching, face, as many live balls off the bat as some of these other teams have. That's a natural, distinct disadvantage that we talk about every year. But that's why it's so important for these coaching staffs. I mean, well, obviously Nebraska, but the other teams from the North as well, to get creative and take every opportunity they can to find ways to get their team off on the right foot. Because let's say after these first 10 games, Nebraska's 5-5. That's not going to be much to write home about, but I think that's still fine for Nebraska. The RPI is going to be in a good spot because of those disadvantages. If Nebraska is able to push its record to 7-3 in these opening 10 games, including Phoenix, Dallas, and then the 3-game set at Auburn, that's where I would have my eyes open because, this team came out ready to go from the jump. This team didn't just, take the quality losses that we talk so much about. And it's not just the strength of schedule, that gets SEC teams into regionals or into the college football playoff sometimes. It's important for these teams to not just take those quality losses, but if you can stack, a 500 record in these early tournaments or better, that goes such a long way in legitimizing. And I know Byron's text is there, but going 7-3, for example, is how Nebraska gets to host its first regional in almost 20 years.
That is the next avenue we can take is the expectation conversation. It's going to be the last. I mean, today's the last chance we have it before we see any product on the field. That is. And so this is clearly a just open-ended conversation, and we don't have all the answers. But, Austin, you and I have talked multiple times off the air regarding how Will Bolt and his staff set some expectations before the season. And I'll never forget after 2021, I mean, they were so adamant that, hey, the next step is to host a regional. The next step is to get to a super regional. Even if you don't host it, can you be one of those teams that goes on the road as a 2 seed, maybe even as a 3 seed as they were last year? Can you be one of those teams to go and upset somebody and make a super regional? That's like the next step for Nebraska. Byron the Hog Farmer on the text line 464-5685. And he asked, is the ceiling super regional or College World Series? Feels like Nebraska has a team to host a regional. It's so difficult. It's such a hard conversation because there's so many examples of successful Big Ten teams that win a lot of games. But to Austin's point a moment ago, when you're talking about the RPI situation, there's so many examples. Rutgers, a 40-win team that was left out of the regionals a few years ago. There's so many examples of this to where teams have drawn the short end of the stick. That's why tournaments and preseason situations like this or early season situations like this can be so valuable to it. I don't want to sit here and say that the ceiling or the expectation is super regional or College World Series, but there's also something to be said about it is time that Nebraska starts to make some waves under this staff.
And I think having an identity, knowing what they want to do, both offensively and defensively, will go a long way in that. I have a hard time saying, it's even host a regional or bust, because Nebraska just hasn't been in that conversation. Maybe a couple years ago they were on the fringes of it, but couldn't quite do enough down the stretch and were just okay early on in that season that it was a legitimate conversation for a while, but you could just kind of sense that conversation starting to lose some steam by the time you got into early May, and then it was really a pipe dream and hoping for stuff outside of your control. To me, Nick, making the Supers or the College World Series is, pie in the sky, 90th percentile outcome. Everything breaks right for Nebraska, who is a program that hasn't had the luxury of having the 1 seed get upset on the opening day and then had the chance to face the 4 and be in the driver's seat in that regional. Baseball has always been, playing straight up, maybe winning the first, 2-3 matchup and then facing the 1 the next day, or having to battle the way out of the loser's bracket. There's been a lot of 1 and 2 regional appearances for Nebraska over the last 15 years, the exception of that being Fayetteville, which we still go back to as maybe an unfair kind of funky draw for that really good Nebraska team against an insanely stacked Arkansas team. So yeah, so much of it is luck. It's getting maybe that 1 seed to lose. It's being good enough with your second starter, or being able to, either throw that second guy, in this case, like a Carson Yassa, on the first day of a regional against a 3-and win, to save a Ty Horn against the 1, or have Carson Yassa be good enough that you can start Ty Horn to get off on the right foot and throw Yassa against the 1 seed and feel like you have a chance to win it. Nebraska hasn't gotten the breaks. Nebraska hasn't created its own breaks. It's kind of been both edges of that sort in the Will Bolt tenure.
Yeah, that was what was so appealing and sexy about the 2021 team, was it just felt like they created so many opportunities out of thin air. But it wasn't because of flukes. It was because that's just who they were. And that identity piece that you brought up, I think, is a major factor of it. I mean, it's weird that we're having these conversations because Nebraska baseball is back-to-back Big Ten champions. Like, I think it's important to just note that they have won back-to-back Big Ten tournaments. Now, the other part of it is I look at it and I think to myself, man, it feels like they've been underwhelming, though, in all honesty, because I'm not complaining about the Big Ten tournament wins. I'm not complaining about the championships that you've received, but think about what is like set up for Nebraska and right in Nebraska's backyard. And there is, you're in a rather weak conference, especially before UCLA and Oregon joined. In comparison to the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12, you are probably fourth in line in that conference list.
At best, and you have the Sun Belt has had hosts recently. Even Conference USA has had times here and there. I mean, Big Ten is hopefully fourth, but probably closer to 5.5 or 6 on that list in any given year.
And I agree with that there. And so it just feels so gettable. Like, and this isn't where I certainly am not having and even broaching the subject of hot seat conversation, but this is where it does feel like, unfortunately, Nebraska has missed opportunities. And I think, I mean, the staff has said that, the players have said that, in that they just felt like they've left some things out there, more so in the regular season or even in the postseason, because they were undermatched against Florida, but and maybe last year they were undermatched against like even in Oklahoma at times, and they don't have an arm like Kyson Witherspoon on the mound for the Sooners, and they haven't. But that's the beauty of baseball, and it is that on any given day you got to be better for 9 innings. You just have to have, like, we just need 9 innings of gut and just grind it out mentality. That's what allowed the 2021 team, who was significantly on paper, on the field, in the measurables, undermatched and outmatched by number 1 seed Arkansas, but you still had a chance up to the very last moment. That is what Nebraska has missed over the last couple of years. And it just feels, once again, so gettable, so attainable, but that Nebraska just, every time they get a little closer, something bad happens to where they get to be pulled away.
Well, something bad happens, or they just don't take advantage. Sometimes it's their fault, sometimes it's not. I mentioned this with Evan Bland yesterday, excuse me, when we had him on Old School. I think that when you talk about missed opportunities for Nebraska in Big Ten baseball, it's not establishing itself as that premier power before these West Coast teams came in. Nebraska had a decade, give or take. And I asked Evan, was this the Big Ten's vision for baseball, that the West Coast would come in, and raise everyone else's level with a couple, Midwest Great Lakes flagships in there? He said, obviously it was a football move, but yeah, I think that's part of the vision, is that, baseball needed the kick in the pants, right? UCLA can do that. They seem like they're back. USC's getting some preseason love. Oregon's been a supers team recently. And even Washington had a 10-win improvement last year and a pretty darn good head coach in Eddie Smith. So when you talk about missed opportunity, Nebraska had a 7 to 9 year window, let's call it, to, consistently be in the top third of the Big Ten, to be consistently winning in the regular season. And it's just been such a roller coaster ride. Nebraska does not, to this point, feel established at the top of the Big Ten. And it's a school that you would think, has cared more about baseball, has had more baseball success, has more fan support, has more facilities relative to the Big Ten, that even if Nebraska is still, outgunned, outmanned on an annual basis by, middle of the tier SEC team, there's no reason that should be the case in the Big Ten. But it has been, and that's where the missed opportunity is, to where it feels like, a 3-team race, and Nebraska and Indiana and sometimes Iowa, now Penn State, they're ups and downs. You have their good years and bad years. But, man, there's no reason that 7 years out of 10, Nebraska shouldn't be in that top third, even in the top 4, potentially, just with everything that it seems like this program should have, which means either we have to recalibrate the expectations for the program, or the expectations are right and it's got to start living up to them.
Then once again, Austin Orman's joining us from Phoenix, or I guess Tempe is where you're at currently. It's all the same area. Everything's within 20 minutes of each other down there. Gilbert, Scottsdale, Mesa, Tempe, all that. No, it's an exciting time. Husker baseball getting ready to go. Austin, let's give the fans a preview here. So tonight, 7 p.m. against UConn. Then tomorrow they will face off, and then it all rounds up. Let me get the schedule here. UConn tonight, Northeastern tomorrow night, Grand Canyon on Sunday, and Stanford on Monday. What are you looking for? I'll save mine for after you. What are you looking for the most as we learn about this Nebraska baseball team here in 2026?
It's going to be super basic, super simple, but I think it's important. And the more you watch baseball, the more you play baseball, you're going to say, well, duh. But I want to see good approaches, especially early on. We talked about this a little bit. Don't just swing for the fences in the thinner air where the ball is going to travel, right? Even if it is a home run oriented team, I want to see guys that work counts, that draw their walks, that get on base. I want to see guys that have a good approach 2-0. 3-1, right? Guys that don't let the first pitch meatball fastball go by just because they're in take mode. Don't be passive. You can be selective without being passive. And then the flip side of that, Nick, I think we're still waiting for that 3-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio out of the pitching staff. I think Nebraska's gotten close. They've had it up around 2.5 at least once since Rob Childress has been back. But I think that's still the metric that Nebraska shoots for, is that 3-to-1. And so if you're Ty Horn, if you're Carson Yassa tomorrow, if you're Cooper Katsky and you're Gavin Blackowitz, that's a great mix of guys that have enough stuff and yet enough to prove that they don't need to be scared. They don't need to be passive. There's no one overwhelming team on Nebraska's schedule that you would have to, work around or be careful with. Be competitive in the zone, right? Keep the walks down, challenge hitters, see what your defense has, let it go to work for you. The better the approach is in terms of confidence, of being locked in with the game plan that you want to accomplish both in the box and on the hill, that's really going to be top of mind for me over these next 4 days.
I think I'm actually going to be similar to you with your first point regarding approaches at the plate. I want to see, and we might not get this answer in just through 4 games, but it really over the next 2 weeks, the construction of the lineup. I'm really curious to see where Josh Overbeek lands in this lineup. Where do they start with Case Sanderson, and where does a guy like Jet Buck fit into this whole fold, and Butenbach and kind of everybody, because Nebraska at times they've adopted this new age of baseball in terms of the lineup. There's also been times where they've kind of gone more traditional. And I am interested just to see the lineup construction, because there are a couple of new faces. Devin Nunez, where does he kind of fall in this lineup? I don't necessarily know what to expect. I don't know if you told me, okay, Nick, who do you think is going to hit cleanup for this Nebraska baseball team? I think that there's a couple of different options there. I know we know how much the staff loves a guy like Josh Overbeek. We know how much the staff loves a guy like Case Sanderson as well. It also depends on what Nebraska wants to do, going back to that identity piece that you talked about a little bit ago.
Yeah, really quick on the lineup. Really curious to see if Nunez is an on-base guy. We know he's fast enough to handle center field. Is he a good enough base runner to do it? Case Sanderson, has he grown into and developed that power? I think only like 15 extra base hits for Case Sanderson last year. That's a big dude who's going to be playing first base with not a lot of defensive value there. So is there more slug in that bat where you can drop him down to that 3 spot or that 4 spot? Is Dylan Carey a guy that's taken a step with the bat? We know he has the extra base pop. Is he consistent enough at the 4 spot, or is he a guy that's better providing a spark at the bottom of the order? What's Overbeek's approach? Evan Bland mentioned a couple other guys in that DH first base conversation. Cole Kitchens is one of those guys. He put in the Tyler Stone kind of mold. Max Butenbach had some pop last year. Is that a middle of the order bat, or is that a guy that needs to start at the bottom of the order and work his way up? There's a lot of what ifs in this lineup. Jet Buck too, right? Is that your 2-hole right away? Transfer from the JUCO ranks. Is he better down at the 5 spot? There are so many ways that Nebraska could go, and so much of it depends on really this last offseason of development. And Nebraska won't be facing a whole bunch of MLB pitching down here, but they'll be facing some pretty darn good college pitching. You don't have to be MLB level hitters early in the season. Who's a good college hitter that's locked in with what they want to do, and how does that piece together? I'm with you. That is entirely fascinating.
Yeah, I find it interesting. Once again, first pitch slated for 7 p.m. later on this evening from Scottsdale. Salt River Fields at Talking Stick is the location. Austin Norman out in Arizona right now joining us as he is out there for Husker baseball coverage. Thank you to all of our friends and partners for the sponsorship of Husker baseball coverage here on 93.7 The Ticket. Diode Technologies, Scissors and Scotch, and Ben Bleicher of PRG and Berkshire Hathaway Real Estate Services. So it's been obviously a great couple of days. We're excited to kick Nebraska baseball off. Nebraska softball is in the middle of a 0-0 fight with Tennessee right now. Austin, if without panic, 3-1 this weekend, is that kind of the hope for Nebraska?
Yeah, I think 3-1 is you're on pace, depending on how the seasons go for the others. 2-2, because Nebraska's not facing a bunch of pushovers, right? No. So I think 2-2 is bare minimum. You got to get out of here with a 500 record, but we'll be able to judge that in retrospect, right? Depending on how those other team seasons go. But I think if you want a context neutral evaluation, 3-1 is absolutely where you want Nebraska to stand on Monday about 4 or 5 o'clock Central Time.
MLB Network's where you can watch it tonight. Austin and I will be locked in intently on that. Austin will be there, but I will be locked in intently on Major League or MLB Network. Hopefully you guys are too. Austin, appreciate it as always, my friend. Glad you made it down there safely. Enjoy all the festivities of Arizona and stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
I sure will. Don't worry. I brought my scorebook. I'm keeping hand stats, right? I did it. It's the last thing I grabbed before I walked out this morning. I had to make sure I had my scorecard. So I am fully locked in and ready to go. It's baseball season. Dang it.
It's funny. It's funny that you brought that up, because every time I think about scorebook, I will never forget. There was a moment, and he probably doesn't even remember this. Connor Onion, our mutual friend, Fox broadcaster. We were up there at the Big Ten baseball tournament, I think 2 years ago or so. And one of the times that Connor and I actually started to have a conversation, this was actually the year that we met up at the Big Ten baseball tournament, I was up there watching Nebraska, Maryland. It was Matt Shaw and the Maryland Terrapins going up against the Huskers. We were up in the Charles Schwab Field press box. Both of us were keeping book just by as spectators of that game. And so that's every time you bring up book. Did you ever sit on and watch a game on TV and keep book through the TV?
I did not do that,
Okay.
But I did keep some book for Mom and Dad's Church League softball from time to time. So that was my introduction, my brother's Little League teams as well. So no, I didn't sit down and keep book for the Royals, but I did my fair share of in-person, always in pencil. I'm not bold like you using pen. I know you've been prone to do that.
Pen. That's right. I do use pen, especially during state baseball. We use pen. So anyway, all right. Austin, appreciate it as always, my friend. We will hold down the fort here. Safe travels back. Plenty of coverage coming from you and your social media accounts, though, over the weekend, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me. Talk to you soon.
There he is, Austin Norman, saying so long. He's enjoying the nice warmer weather down in Phoenix. All right, we are late for a break. Let's take a break. When we come back, we talk about Nebraska basketball Northwestern matchup tomorrow because Husker basketball is still in the middle of an unprecedented season. One-on-one, Nick Sehnert filling in for DP on a Friday. We will be right back here on 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Are you looking for something different for lunch or dinner in Lincoln? Big 8 is now open at 1226 P Street, serving seafood boils and Asian cuisine. Get your hands messy with fresh, flavorful seafood boils, hot, cold, and made to share. Or enjoy classic Chinese and Asian dishes, perfect for lunch, dinner, or a night out with friends and family. Big flavors, generous portions, and a brand new dining experience. Big 8, now open in Lincoln.
Way out there where the sun comes up under the big red sky, I do life the way I love, with family by my side. I feel home with me, no matter where I go.
Proud of where we're from, excited for where we're going. Pinnacle Bank, the way banking should be. Member FDIC.
Back Nine Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back Nine Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back Nine Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back Nine's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back Nine Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination.
No one's ever explained it this way. That's what we hear at Trade-Offs when you finally see how today's crop insurance tools work with your grain marketing plan, not in isolation. With hail and wind rates increasing and margins already tight, it's time to challenge how you look at crop insurance. It's time to ask better questions. It's time to call Trade-Offs. Call us at 402-858-7501 or visit gotradeoffs.com to start the conversation. That's GOTREDAS.com. Trade-Offs, ingrained in your success. No, seriously, give us a call.
A new year means it's time to try new things. If you haven't tried Führer's cheese spread yet, the time is now. For the days you don't want to go to the gym, don't worry. Führer's cheese spread is there to cheer you up. And for the days you do get to the gym, why not celebrate when you get back with the best dip around? Get to your local grocery store today and load up on Führer's cheese spread. No event or party is complete without it on your table. Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Here's Stacy from Petal Creations.
Ordering flowers is intimidating if you don't know what you're doing.
Petal Creations experts care about designing a bouquet that conveys your special message from the heart.
You deserve to have a personal florist that you can depend on, who can take your message, turn it into a bouquet, and deliver it in a timely manner. And the rest is up to you.
Petal Creations in the Edgewood Shopping Center or at petalcreations.com.
So give us a call. We've got you.
Back to One-on-One with DP. Sponsored by the Downtown Lincoln Foundation on 93.7 The Ticket.
Once again, thank you to Austin Norman for hanging out with me for 30 minutes or so as in that first segment. Austin down there live from Arizona. Nebraska baseball getting started there. They'll play in Scottsdale a couple of times. They'll play in Mesa a few times as well over the course of the weekend, and we're excited for it. Update on the other diamond, Nebraska softball, who we went in deep into expectations for them yesterday. Top 8 team in the country right now. They are facing off against number 3 Tennessee. Nebraska currently tied 0 apiece, 0-0 with the Tennessee Volunteers. With one out in the bottom of the third, the Huskers have runners on second and third. So threatening here in the home half of the third inning, the Huskers, the home team on the scoreboard after they go 1-1 yesterday against LSU and Georgia. Now, the other sport, Nebraska men's basketball. The Huskers hosting Northwestern tomorrow. Obviously, last time out, they fell to the Purdue Boilermakers. And with that, fell to the Purdue Boilermakers after they just kind of dug themselves into a real deep hole. And Fred Hoiberg talked about it, right? He mentioned it, that it felt like Nebraska lost that game in the first 3 or 4 minutes of that one. And now you look at tomorrow, you're bringing in and you're welcoming a team in Northwestern that pushed Michigan to the brink for about 30 minutes of the 40-minute ball game, and then Michigan just decided to flex their muscles and take care of business the rest of the way. And, you know, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not Nebraska fans should be concerned about where this thing is going, if Nebraska is kind of hitting a little bit of a speed bump. I think this is where I will put the caution. And if you've heard me on the radio before, I mean, you know, I try to be pretty realistic, and sometimes the realism in me can sound negative, and that's not where I'm trying to go here at all. It's actually on the flip side. I would say that there's a lot of things to provide Nebraska fans with comfort. I think the conversation about depth, sure, is incredibly important and valuable, incredibly valuable on the in the regular season. But in terms of the postseason, I don't think it's necessarily that crucial. And here's why. In the postseason, when it's win or go home, there's a chance that you're not going to have your 8th or 9th best player in the rotation kind of being the reason that you win or lose a game. I think more so it's, can your biggest players and your stars shine the brightest when you need them most? I think about in the last couple of years with like a guy like Rink. Rink is a perfect example in my opinion. 2 years ago, Rink Mast showed out against Wisconsin and Purdue. And obviously I say 2 years ago because he was injured in 2024. But when Nebraska welcomed Purdue and they were the number one team, and Nebraska welcomed Wisconsin, and I believe they were 6th in the country or maybe even higher than that at the time, who showed up the brightest? Rink did. You even go last year with Bryce Williams. How many times did Bryce and Jawan show up when Nebraska needed them most? Your big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. And so I look at this year, and especially tomorrow, very little concern. And not because I'm trying to drink the Kool-Aid or be way too optimistic. I think naturally, though, it is, let's just look at who they are. And in addition to what Nebraska is, let's look at what Northwestern is. And that should give Husker fans confidence in tomorrow. And then you add in all the other additional details of that. It'd be an alumni weekend. I think the official count is 67 guys from previous teams are here, or at least making their way to Lincoln. The guys on early break this morning had Dave Hoppin, one of the best to ever do it, all-time scoring leader on their show. Great conversation with Hoppin earlier. And so, like, through all of that, Nebraska's going to be okay. And tomorrow, Nick Martinelli, who's leading the Big Ten Conference in scoring per game, he's going to get his. Austin and I discussed it yesterday a little bit. And if you missed any of the show, you can always check it out on the podcast page. But Austin and I discussed it where Martinelli had to put up 20 shots the last time Nebraska played Northwestern. And in Evanston, and I was there, I was part of the Husker takeover crowd in Evanston a few weeks ago, back in the second or third week of January. And it was, while Martinelli was hitting shots, you never were concerned about Nebraska losing it. Northwestern's going to need Martinelli to be at his all Big Ten caliber level. They're going to need 2 or 3 more guys to even do uncharacteristic performances for them. And Nebraska's going to have to be way off their game. Now, I say all of that to also add, maybe we haven't seen Nebraska play a full 40 minutes of their desired style of basketball since Michigan State. Maybe since Wisconsin when they beat them 90-60. And so tomorrow feels like a great opportunity for a couple of things. Just to get a business-like mentality type of win at home. Maybe a chance for a Jared Garcia to establish himself. I would even say reestablish himself in this conversation. Because We know how valuable Jared Garcia was that day in Champaign against the Fighting Illini that Nebraska won. But there's going to be moments down the stretch in the regular season as Nebraska goes to the West Coast and faces off against USC and UCLA, or Nebraska goes to Iowa next Tuesday. There might be some moments where Nebraska needs them, especially with Leo Curtis's situation unknown and unclear. Leo was incredibly valuable against Michigan a few weeks ago. Maybe not polished, but Nebraska also doesn't need somebody in that role to be polished. They just need somebody available and willing to go out there and do some stuff. So tomorrow feels like a great opportunity, a great chance. Not only for Nebraska to get a business-like win and handle Northwestern comfortably, which I think they do, but in addition to that, carve out a couple of other things. Jared Garcia, we might like that. Everybody's looking at you. Leo Curtis, if he's available to go. And then, for a guy like Rink Mass, have a second straight game where you're feeling it from beyond the arc. That's what makes Rink so dangerous at times, is his ability to stretch the floor. And when we talk about the rebounding issues that Nebraska has, you know why Nebraska sometimes is still able to win games even when they're being out rebounded or they're significantly undersized, is because their big guys are able to stretch the floor, which draws other big defenders out to the perimeter where they are uncomfortable, putting stress on the defense, putting the opponent's big men into uncomfortable situations. And we saw where Nebraska, obviously, when Rink and their post players or whatever, the 4 or 5s on the floor are hitting shots, then guess what? Nebraska usually has a really good chance to win a game. But when they're not, it becomes a little more difficult. So tomorrow, I think Nebraska wins comfortably. But also there's things on a day like tomorrow, on a season like Nebraska's having, there's a lot more expectation and deservedly so. And it's good to have pressure. It's good to have expectations. That, guess what? There's a lot more that you can learn, I think, still about yourself, even on February 14th, which is what it will be tomorrow, about what you can do setting yourself up for the rest of the year. It should be a good one. Noon. 402-464-5685. Honda Lincoln Hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, open for you guys the entire show today. We have about 10 minutes left in the program. I'll tell you what, all Husker events coming up this weekend. What do you need to know about? We break that down. Thanks to Austin Norman once again for joining the show a few minutes ago from Arizona. And once again, Nebraska and Northwestern tomorrow at noon on Big Ten Network. Adam Carricker will take over in about 10 minutes or so. We're due for a break. Nick Sehnert here on One-on-One. No DP today or Monday. He'll be back on Tuesday. We'll step aside, be right back here on 93.7 The Ticket.
Looking to get a room downtown or near South Lincoln? Abe Lincoln would tell you no to the Ford Theater and yes to Lincoln Hotel. Save up to 40% off downtown Lincoln prices with a nice clean room and comfortable stay. Lincoln Hotel is locally owned and offers a day pass to the city's largest locally owned gym, Good Life Fitness. Long-term stays are available. You can learn more about pricing and book your Lincoln Hotel stay today at staylnk.com or call 402-600-0565. That's staylnk.com or call 402-600-0565.
Flowers and chocolate are great for Valentine's Day, but you know what really earns you bonus points? A massage. No, not from you, but from the professionals at The Body Shop. Now is the time to purchase a gift certificate for your significant other to make sure you're the big winner this Valentine's Day. Go to thebodyshoplincoln.com and select from their wide variety of specific massages. Once you've purchased, you can either print out the certificate or email it to the lucky recipient. Do Valentine's Day right this year with a massage from The Body Shop, right behind Eyeglass World at 56th and O.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Gentlemen, Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Don't be that guy running to the store for flowers and a card on your way home. Let Sartor Heyman Jewelers help you be a hero this Valentine's Day. We have great gifts in store now, and if you spend $129, we'll throw in a free bouquet of roses. Give her what she really wants this year and let us do the rest. Sartor Heyman Jewelers, your hometown jeweler since 1905. In Lincoln and Grand Island and online at sartorheyman.com.
Back Nine Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back Nine Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back Nine Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back Nine's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back Nine Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination.
Most resolutions for the new year fail before January is even over. Why not resolve to just be a little bit cleaner in 2026? Nebraska Auto Detail is here for you. Now through March 30th, if you purchase a ceramic coating, you'll get a free interior detail. There's no better way to start your year than taking care of your car and decluttering the mess that it becomes so easily. Book your detail today at NebraskaAutoDetail.com or call Joe and the team at 402-601-5086.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Back to One-on-One with DP. Sponsored by the Downtown Lincoln Foundation on 93.7 The Ticket.
Welcome back in. It is One-on-One. Nick Sehnert here filling in for DP. Update from Clearwater, Florida, as Nebraska softball faces off against number 3 Tennessee. They are in the top of the fourth, the Vols half of the fourth inning. Nebraska leads the Volunteers 1-0. 2 outs here in the top of the fourth inning. Tennessee just hit a 2-out double to the center field wall, but Nebraska just one pitch away from getting out of this one unscathed. I saw this during the break, and it goes back to our Husker baseball conversation. Austin and I have talked multiple times, and Austin and I obviously cover the Nebraska State baseball tournaments here on the station. The Kansas State lineup has quite a bit of local flavor, and it's something, pretty interesting to watch, is that you have in that lineup, Kansas State. Not only did they bring in Nebraska transfer Robbie Bolin, he gets the start in center field today, but they also have former Lincoln East standout AJ Avasco starting in their lineup, and former, I believe, Bellevue West first baseman Ty Smolinski in their lineup as well. So plenty of local prep flavor in the Kansas State baseball lineup today for opening day. There's a lot of talent in this state. You just gotta find it. And Nebraska, obviously, the Huskers have some local prep flavor as well. I'm really excited to see what a guy like Drew Grego can do. It may be in a little bit more of a reserve role. But in addition to that, obviously, Max Butenbach is a guy from Lincoln Southeast. Will Jeske is a guy from Lincoln Southeast. Jeter Worthley might find himself as the starting catcher. He's a true freshman from Lincoln East High School and can cause a lot of havoc on the base paths. And so there's a lot to like about this Nebraska baseball program, and we'll see what the future holds tonight, 7 p.m. against Connecticut, UConn. Update from Clearwater, Nebraska and Tennessee tied at 1 apiece. Tennessee with 2 outs still in the top of the fourth inning. The Volunteers have a runner at third with 2 outs. Jordy Fromm is in the circle for the Huskers, who are 4-3 overall this season, but all 3 of their losses have come to top 25 opponents. And so they are doing just fine. This is similar to what we talked about with baseball, RPI booster here in the early parts of the year. And you really applaud Nebraska softball, the program, from the program standpoint, the coaches. Same can be said about Will Bolt, Lance Harvell, Mike Sirianni, Rob Childress there for baseball. They continue to put forth a strong enough effort in these earlier season tournaments to they continue to get invited back. And it means a lot that Nebraska can play in a showcase like the Shriners Children's Clearwater Invitational for Husker softball on a day like today. We are going to get out of here. Adam Carricker is coming up next on the station. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Once again, DP will be back on Tuesday on One-on-One. I will help out and fill in on Monday as well. We'll have so much to talk about. Husker softball, Husker baseball, Husker basketball, Husker women's basketball, Nebraska football situations. Don't forget, spring practice starts next Saturday, the 21st, earlier than ever. We will have so much to get into throughout the course of the show. Update from softball real quick. Huskers get out of the inning, allowing just one run. They are tied at 1 apiece going to the Huskers home half of the 4th on ESPN2. Currently, Nick Sehnert saying so long. Have a great Valentine's Day weekend. Enjoy the weather. And we will talk to you on Monday. Adam Carricker Show coming up next here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Looking to get a room downtown or near South Lincoln? Abe Lincoln would tell you no to the Ford Theater and yes to Lincoln Hotel. Save up to 40% off downtown Lincoln prices with a nice clean room and comfortable stay. Lincoln Hotel is locally owned and offers a day pass to the city's largest locally owned gym, Good Life Fitness. Long-term stays are available. You can learn more about pricing and book your Lincoln Hotel stay today at staylnk.com or call 402-600-0565. That's staylnk.com or call 402-600-0565. Bundle up, bring your crew, and make this winter one for the books with Bachfest on Saturday, February 21st at Beer House. Enjoy winter brews that will tangle with your taste buds, polka dancing, games like Hammerschlagen and Stein Stamina, and more. Bach beer will be flowing and sausages and pretzels will be available for purchase. Doors open at 11 a.m. and the party goes outside until 6 p.m. before moving inside. VIP tickets are $75, but just $10 gets you in the door. Buy your tickets today at beerhousene.com for Bachfest on Saturday, February